Welcome, and thank you for listening to the Sales Maven Show. I'm your host, Nikki Roush, your own personal sales maven, here to offer you tips and strategies and techniques to master your sales conversation. Today is an on-air coaching call with our brilliant, amazing Kathy Farah. You might have heard Kathy on the show before. She has been on, and she has actually been on twice before. So this is a three-peat. I'm pretty excited to have her back. She's been a long-term client. She's been in the Sales Maven Society for a very long time. And she's going through some pivots and some transition in her business. So this is the perfect time to bring her back on to do an on-air coaching call. So Kathy, welcome back to the show, friend.
Hi, thanks, Nikki. I appreciate you having me back. I'm very excited about being able to talk to you today.
I'm excited to have you. Tell everybody a little bit about what you're doing now and how you're working with clients, your business, all the good stuff. Give us the lowdown.
Oh, yes. So thank you. So I am a kit technical email strategist. So I am still utilizing ConvertKit now kit. And I now work with multi six-figure and beyond coaches, consultants, service providers that to get their email systems set up right, building powerful email funnels that drive revenue, save time, and deepen relationships.
Mhm.
And what I'm trying to do more is work beyond the basic setup, that I'm kind of also blending in the idea of having a strategist involved in this. So it's not just a tech VA, it's more of building in the strategy. How do you make all of these different components work really well for your business, but have it more done for you instead of having to have me teach you and then you go and try to do that yourself?
Which I think a lot of us, when you reach a certain level in your business, it's nice to have experts that you can rely on to take this kind of stuff off your plate so that you can focus on the things that is like your level of expertise, right? Like
Yes.
email marketing is certainly not the setup, the behind the scenes, all of that is definitely not my wheelhouse. Luckily, I have someone on my team who is really amazing at it. But if you don't, man, it's so nice to have somebody like you who can come in and take that piece on and take it off your plate so that you can focus on the things that really drive revenue in the business. Now, of course, I know the things you're doing are helping to drive revenue because I truly believe having an effective email list and managing that list and the things that you do for your clients, I know in my business that drives a tremendous amount of sales. I always say like 90% of my sales come from my email list, like me actually putting offers out into my list. So it's such a crucial piece. And I'm so grateful that there's people like you and you specifically out there doing this for your clients.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it makes such a big difference. And I think that we could just even look at this past year and see some of the things that have happened in social media world. Like that's where a lot of times people feel most comfortable is posting on social. And
Mhm.
we think that that's enough. And I think with the little glimpse of the TikTok ban for a
Yeah.
moment and how, some of these platforms just change, the idea that we think we're reaching, even if we've built up followers and we're fairly consistent on social media, we don't have a guarantee that our posts get in front of the right people all the time. And I think that's one of those things with email marketing that you generally can have a conversation. You know that you're getting in front of people that have asked to be part of your world. That's the other benefit. They may have followed at some point, but they aren't necessarily always, seeing or wanting what you got right at that point. But when you are getting permission and having someone come on your email list, then they're there because they want to be there and want to
Mhm.
see what you have to offer.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and sometimes having those people on your list and nurturing them, because I know you do this for clients, these nurture campaigns
Yes.
is such an important piece because, every once in a while I'll have somebody who will show up and they'll be like, oh, I've been on your email list for 3 years before they bought anything. Right.
Yes.
Or I remember, I think the longest anybody's ever told me is 4 years. Like, oh, I've been getting your emails, Nikki, for 4 years. And, it was the right time, the right offer, all of that. So I love that.
Yeah,
So
and I was gonna say,
satisfying.
it's one of those things that we always have a little bit of as business owners that we worry a little bit, like, if they're just hanging around on our email list, that it doesn't really matter. And
Mhm.
I think just like you've experienced, I haven't had my list that long, but I will say that I've had clients that have been there for a couple of years and the right time, hearing those words, it was the right time. They pulled the trigger. And then when I looked back at the history, they had opened most of my emails and they because I was consistent about the messages that I was delivering in my emails, then the first time we meet in person, it's like, "Oh, yeah, you've been talking about that. I've been meaning to whatever it is, dot, dot, dot."
Yeah.
I it's those things that you get the opportunity to be able to keep saying what it is that you do and why it's so important, and it's
Mhm.
little bits that start to add up to where they're like, "I see it. It's hard for me not to see it now."
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think is, and then we'll do the on-air coaching call, but what do you think is one of the biggest either misconceptions or mistakes that people make when it comes to their list, their email list?
I think giving up a little too soon. So I
Mhm.
think one of the things is, and I've been hearing it a little bit more lately from some of my clients, is that especially as you're building your list, because it isn't a fast process. It is a marathon, not a sprint. So you really it takes time to build a quality list where you have, and when I say quality, it's like engaged people on your list
Yeah.
that are opening your emails, communicating, occasionally replying back. These things all take time. And I think sometimes what happens is we get a little discouraged and we either we decide, I'm not going to put any more offers out. Like
Mhm.
it just hasn't been resulting in anything. So I'm going to stop doing that. Or I'm not going to email as often as I did before because I'm probably bothering people. Because you're not seeing the immediate quick result, you're thinking that it's not worthwhile to do those things. And I will say recently, I one of the things that I've always been really a big advocate of is re-engaging the audience. When you
Mhm.
see that people have been on your list for a while, reaching kind of back out to them. And I've recently pivoted, what my advice is and emailed my list about this very thing of I've kind of redid my re-engagement guide to include the fact that I used to think, okay, just clean them off your list. Clean, if they've not opened, you've tried to re-engage them, just get rid of them and move along so that that way you don't have to worry about it. And now I'm realizing things are changing and
Mhm.
it's really about having each connection and being just relax and realize that it's worthwhile. They're maybe not always responding, they may not always be connecting, but they're seeing your emails, they see you there so that when that time comes and they're ready to purchase, then you're top of mind.
I love that you said that because I know a few years back somebody I trust gave me this advice about cleaning my list, right? Like you don't want a bunch of dead weight sitting on your list, especially because, once you hit a certain number and you go over it, depending on who your list
Yeah.
management system is, right? It can make a huge difference in what you're paying to manage your list. And so somebody had said, like, clean your list. So, I followed all the process. We started cleaning the list. And then what was happening with the re-engagement campaign is it was taking people off the list that were then following up with me privately, being like, hey, Nikki, what happened? Like, why am I not seeing your emails anymore? And I was like, oh, well, it looks like, you weren't engaging. And they're like, I open every email. I have a folder, a Nikki folder that I save all your stuff in. And I'm like,
Yes.
oh, well, it was a hard lesson to learn because I will say I cleaned quite a bit off the list, but at the
Yes.
same time, it was like, well, it was a really thankfully that people would reach out and want to engage and want to be on the list and then having to resubscribe people. So I don't clean my list like I used to either because I think now people understand self-select, right? Like there
Yes.
is an unsubscribe on the list. So if you don't want to be on it, you can make that choice for yourself. I don't need to make that choice for you
Right,
unless
you're absolutely right, and I will say Google and Yahoo are making it easier and easier to unsubscribe, so if
Mhm.
you're not sending valuable content, then people are going to do that anyway. So
Yeah.
there's the two thoughts of it of, so you really want to send valuable content that really
Yeah.
resonates with your audience. But when that time comes, because all of us do this, if you think about how your own behaviors are with email, if it no longer connects with where you are in your business or what your needs are, you will unsubscribe.
Yeah, of
You will move
course.
along, and you may come back later when the time is right.
Yep, I've had that happen too, where people have unsubscribed and then something changed in their business and then they resubscribe and then they end up becoming clients again. And it's like, yeah, I'm here for you when you need me. It's always I always say it's the right time, the right offer at the right price, and that's when you really close that deal, but you don't get to determine what that is. The prospect, the client determines that, and you don't know. So that's why you build a list. This is why you continue to email your list. So anyway, all right. We're going to transition to you into your business and how can I serve you today?
I'm realizing as I'm pivoting how I try to connect with clients. So one of the things is I'm realizing I've adjusted my pricing
Mhm.
to be more in line with where the services that I'm offering today. So that means that the way I do calls with clients, it's a little different. Like I was closing more calls based off of the things that I had learned from you in the past, and that worked really well, but it was also a little less of an ask. Now I'm realizing, and you and I had talked more recently about that it's taking more time for people to make those decisions, that
Mhm.
46 micro touches.
Yes.
And so now with that in mind, I'm realizing that I need to change, like I'm being asked to do more proposals.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I started to realize is that I really didn't have any great way of doing proposals. So as I'm trying to choose between the different offers, I think that's what I'm trying to figure out is what's the best approach, if this is making sense. Like how do I pull these things together to where it's very effective? And then how do I choose? Like I know you say three offers, but as things have evolved, I've realized I have different things I could do for different people. So
Mhm.
how do you recommend I kind of lead those calls now and end up with a proposal, which means I have to make sure that I have extra things I need to do after that initial discovery call that I didn't typically have to do in the past.
Yeah. Okay, so before I answer your question, I just want to for the audience for listening because you commented on this and I want to expand on it. So you might have heard Kathy mention these 46 micro touches. This came from a podcast I was listening to and the guest was talking about how and I'm sorry I can't give credit to who said it cuz I don't remember, but she was talking about how there was this company that spent $1 million on this study to figure out how many micro touches, how many times they touched a client or a prospect in some way before they actually bought. And they spent $1 million in their business to determine that it was 46 micro touches. Now, a micro touch could be anything from seeing a post that you posted on some kind of social media platform to actually seeing an email in their inbox and not even opening it or reading it, but that all counts as a micro touch. And so I'm not saying that your number is 46 and I don't know that my number is 46, but I know I'm not going to spend $1 million to find it out. With that in mind, though, it's important that, it just reiterates how important it is that you stay front of mind and that you keep staying in front of clients. And so Kathy has really embraced this micro touch in her business and helping her clients with these micro touches and them staying really front of mind so that they're setting themselves up to convert those to buyers. Now, okay, so now I wanted to comment on
Thank
that.
you. I appreciate you setting that. Yes.
So now to move to your question, as far as now with these higher level clients that you're working with that often have a decision process they have to go through or some kind of a vetting process or something that involves not just you and that person getting on a call and them deciding on the spot to hire you. So it may be a committee's involved, it may be that there's a boss they're collecting information for, and so that does change a little bit of the dynamic in that case. And so from a setup, and then I want to know what questions you have. When I think about that from the consultation process, in the discovery part, when you're asking the questions, it's really crucial that you ask about their decision-making process and their criteria that they'll be using to choose, to make the decision about hiring you or hiring the company that they're going to hire. So the question is like, what criteria will you be using to decide as to which company you're going to work with if you know they're talking to multiple companies? You also would need to ask, what is your process for making a decision and getting started with a new vendor or with a new company? That's another question that I would recommend that you have in your back pocket to ask in those conversations, because you, the last thing you want to do, and I'm saying this to you, Kathy, but I'm also saying it to you, the listener, is, and this is a huge mistake that people make in the sales process, is they make assumptions about the process or about the
Yes.
criteria or about who's involved in the decision. And you do not want to make assumptions. You want to ask and let them tell you the real answer so that you can then set them and you up for success to earn that business. So we need to know that. The other question when you're dealing with a larger entity like this is you probably need to ask about time frame. Like, what is your time frame for getting started? Or what is your time frame for having this project up and running? That's another way to ask the
Okay.
question, because that will help you determine possibly as to if you're putting together a proposal, like what's the expiration date of that proposal? What are the offers that you're going to put on that proposal? Like
Yeah.
these kind of things are, when you have that information, you can make a better recommendation and you can put together a proposal that would work better for you. I just had this happen recently, by the way, that somebody reached out to me, asked me for some pricing, and wanted it in more of a formal type proposal as a company. And so I sent it back. I always put an expiration date on my proposals, and I recommend that you do as well if you're listening, and for you, Kathy, too. There needs to be an expiration date. And so as soon as they saw the expiration date, they came back, the person I was engaging with, and we were just engaging. They weren't interested in a call. They just wanted, like, we were just communicating via email. Came back and said, "Oh, actually, I see that this proposal expires in 30 days. We actually won't have funding for this for like 3 months." So that's great information, because now I know I'm not going to spend time trying to like close that deal when they don't even have funding for 3 months. Now, when the 3 months is up, yes, we like, we're going to move forward. There's the opportunity of like closing that deal, but I'm not going to waste time and energy on something right now in this month when it's not even going to be for a few months before they can even have the conversation with me. So now I can spend my time working on closing other deals, right?
Yes.
So I want you to think about that too, about time frame. And of course, here's the question that everybody loves to avoid, and yet you can't. You have to ask, is about budget.
Yeah.
And I know you know this, Kathy, because I feel like we talk about this, but
Yeah.
we have to know what their budget is. And
Yes.
if they push back and say, I don't know, we've never spent money on something like this before, then you give a range and you ask where they fit in that range. So you could say, a project like what you're talking about could range somewhere between 5 and 15,000. Given that range, where do you fall? Now, if they clutch their pearls and say, "Oh my gosh, I was thinking 1,000," and you're like, "Well," don't laugh at them, but you're thinking
Right.
like, "There's no way like we can't do this project for $1,000, and I wouldn't do it for that anyway." Now you know, like, it may not be a good fit, so we can bless and release. Or if you give that range and they say, "Well, we're probably somewhere in the like 5 to 7,500." Well, now you know you don't want to quote them something that's 15,000 because it's going to be out of alignment. So these are
Mm.
all kind of for the discovery process, some questions that I want you to have in your back pocket.
I love this. Right
Good.
off, I was gonna say each question actually to me feels like it is a bit of a relief. Like if I knew the answers to these questions, it would help me slow my process down
Yes.
or be more aware of what was aligned so that you're not trying, because I think that was the thing with the proposal. It felt like I was just grabbing something out of the air, and saying, okay, it's one of these three things, maybe, and not really feeling
Mhm.
as comfortable that I had the right offer for that person. And I think just hearing that these are the questions I should be asking really is kind of like, I think a relief, it'd be a relief for them and for me
Yeah.
to know the answer.
The questions that you're asking in this part of the sales conversation are so critical to your success. As a matter of fact, they're so critical that I just created a training. It's called Seal the Deal, and it's the questions that close the deal. Like having a training that really breaks this down into how do you really create I call it, there's two sections: your right fit questions, which the questions that I just gave you are right fit questions, and then that's how we determine whether or not it makes sense to continue the conversation. But then the second set of questions, this is just for you, the listener, are what I call your expertise questions. These are the questions that set you apart from your competition. These are the questions that you ask that plant the seed in the mind of the buyer of like, oh, Kathy is asking me a question that makes me go, she's my gal. Like she's the person I need to hire. So your expertise questions are super important. If you want access to this training, I do sell it.
Yes.
It's a low price offer. Send me an email and I'll get you the link and you can go and purchase it. I think it's $49. It will change the discovery process. If you're listening going like, what are my questions? Like this is a training, and I put it at a really low price because I think it's like everybody needs to know this to improve their discovery. So once you've got that down, Kathy, you've got the discovery piece now. Now for you, one of the things that's coming up is proposals, right? Like
Yes.
these people are asking now for proposals. That wasn't the case in the past.
Right.
And there are some key things, and I won't go into like every little step, but there are some key things that you do in the proposal. And I know we talked about this in one of your coaching calls that is so crucial to making it easy for them to choose. But you specifically brought up this idea of having three options. Okay. So
Yes.
three options is what I recommend. If you have multiple ways that people can work with you, you never recommend more than three initially, because if you recommend more than three, you confuse the mind. A confused mind does not buy. It's too many options for them to make a decision. Three is a really great choice point for somebody. Now, you don't have to have three. You can have less. Just don't have more initially, right? Like if they reject all three, then we can bring in a different offer. But let's give them the three. And the three is based on your expertise, Kathy, of based on what you have assessed in the discovery through your great questions. You should know what is the thing that they most need from you. What is your recommendation? Okay. So you stand in your place of authority and credibility and you recommend the option. Now, again, if there's an option that sits above the like right fit option, but you want them to see that there's more you can get. That's called your anchor offer, right? And then so in the proposal, you can have the three options, but you lay them out in top-down selling. So most expensive option first, then the next, then the next. Now, in that layout, it is 100% appropriate in the proposal for you to say, based on what we shared or based on what you've shared, my recommendation is option whatever, and here's why. And the why needs to speak to their criteria. And if you'll
Okay.
do that, you're already setting yourself up for success. Now, the last piece, I feel like you know this, and I'm going to give you a second, or I'll give you a chance to ask me questions based on what I've shared. But I don't want you sending proposals to somebody or a proposal to somebody without having scheduled a circle back call to review it. Do not send out proposals and then go
Yeah.
like, I'll follow up with you next week. Because when you
Yeah.
follow up, they're not going to answer. Like, who knows if we ever even get them to look at the proposal. But if you have that session scheduled, that circle back call scheduled to review it, answer the questions that come to mind, and then you get the opportunity to invite them to work with you, issue that invitation, which is essentially close the sale. Now we have a real chance of earning their business. And miss this step, you're probably going to have spent a lot of time and energy crafting really thoughtful proposals that nobody looks at.
And I can attest that that is true. So, yes, you are correct. I recognize that that was as I was starting this whole thing, I had good intentions, but it was very pretty and then it's hard to get back. So yes, I now circle back calls is very important. Even if
Yeah.
I have a really good follow-up system, because I realize I've been talking to other business owners, I realize we just get so busy
Yeah.
and we totally lose track. We have great intentions. We may really want to work with that person, and it just totally falls to the bottom of the.
That's right.
And then as the business owner, if we don't have a good process in following up, then it becomes this whole thing where you're just chasing and that doesn't work well either.
Yeah. I mean, my close rate, if I don't schedule a circle back call, is garbage. But if I
Yeah.
schedule a circle back call, my close rate is very high. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things like at least attempt. Now, if they say like, don't call us, we'll call you, then okay, you probably don't have a very good chance of earning that business either. But at least you can still send the proposal and then see where it goes from there. But you got to have that circle back call scheduled to review the proposal with them. Because if you don't walk them through the proposal, like I said, they may never look at it. But more importantly, when they do look at it, it gives them an opportunity to figure out what's unclear. What do they have a question about? What about this? What about that? And you need to be present to answer those questions to earn the business. So this is
Yes.
so important.
Because I think the other thing too is there's the fine line between, and certainly for somebody like myself who's very detail oriented, a fine line between how much information you put in a proposal
Hmm.
that becomes so overwhelming. Like you want, so there's always going to be a chance you've missed something or you thought you were clear in what you put out there that isn't when they start to look at it and like, what does that mean? Like even just you and I've talked about this in the past of what is a funnel versus what is an email series, like how you reference something
Hmm.
seems logical in one hand to me, may not be to the person that's receiving the
That's right.
proposal. And so they don't know why that's valuable unless I can answer the question. So I could
Yeah.
definitely see that being something that needs to happen during the circle back call.
Yeah. One of the things I do a lot is I do a lot of proposal reviews for clients during strategy sessions. And they send me proposals, and I'll be like, okay, this information isn't even here. I don't even know what this means. Like I go through it like
Yeah.
section by section and go, what about this? And they're like, oh, I thought that was in there. And it's like, no, you thought it was in there because you know what you mean and you know
Yes.
what this is to you and you know what this phrasing is in this like you know what's
Yes.
what's the term like your
The
lingo, right? The
jargon, yeah,
jargon, thank
for
you.
your
Yeah,
for
like you know
your
what that
industry.
means, but
Yes.
when
Yep.
somebody who is reaching out to you to hire you for your services, chances are they don't know your jargon and they don't know your lingo. They also aren't in your head. So one of the things that's so great about our brains is like we can insert information when we know it, which is why like when you get those, you see these sometimes posted on social media where they'll have like a paragraph, but they'll have dropped out letters. And your
Yes.
brain knows to fill in the letters because your brain knows what the word is. Like it knows how to
Yeah.
read it that way, or they'll like turn the letters backwards or whatever. And you'll be like, oh, I can read this
Yes.
because you have a history and because you know it. And unfortunately, that happens when you're crafting your proposals too. Is like you drop out things because your brain knows that that's what you meant, but the
Yeah.
reader doesn't know it and it has no way to read to read it or to make that jump, which is also again why I think having somebody review your proposals is super important. And I do this too, by the way. Like I drop stuff that I'll go back and sometimes, you or one of my clients will be
Yeah.
like, Nikki, what does this mean? Or what? And I'll be like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I know what it means, but why would you? Because you're not in my head. You can't read my thoughts. So
Yeah.
super important that you really challenge yourself. Like one tip that I sometimes use is I'll read things from the bottom up because
Yes.
it'll help my
Yes.
brain start to pick up things that I'll be like, "Oh, my brain just inserted that word, but that word's actually not even in the sentence." Like,
That's right.
yeah, so you'll like
That's actually a copywriting tip as well of just
yeah.
reviewing your wording on things that you've written. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah. I
okay.
like that.
All right. Well, I'm excited for you. I'm excited for the proposals and for you to
Yes.
continue to put yourself out there with these amazing offers because the one thing I will know about the work that you do is you help your clients make money. And I love that for you because when
Yes.
they hire you, they are doing things that are bringing in new business. That's revenue or increasing the lifetime value of their clients, their existing clients. So, this is one of those things like the work that you're doing in the world makes your clients money. That makes you a really easy yes.
It's just a matter of putting it in the proper way to where they can say yes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think this is extremely helpful, and as you're describing each of these things, like I said, it actually feels easier. I would rather know the answers to these questions up front, and then it's a lot easier to kind of pull these things together and remembering how to kind of structure all of it. And yes, ding, 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 buying signal. I want to know the the closing the deal.
That's right.
That
That's right.
language, because that's perfect.
Okay, good, good. All right. So as we wrap up, because you've been on the show before, I'm super interested if you're willing to share. I want to do the
Yeah.
little something extra with you. So
Yeah.
my first question is, what's something that brings you joy right now?
Right now, it's really taking time off during the weekend and, like, really just doing what I want to creatively. So sometimes that could be in my business, sometimes it has nothing to do with my business. It's getting out of the house, getting in nature, walking by the river, going and just being out and enjoying just being outside. Like, I realized it's so easy when you work from home to stay cooped up all week long and just do your routine, and I like to really try to break the routine, so that brings me genuine joy. So that could be just reading for hours at a bookstore or, just walking by the river and stopping every few minutes to read and eat an apple or something, but just be outside.
I love that. That makes me so happy. I feel like you're speaking my language. I so get that. Okay. What is something people will be surprised to learn about you?
Well, so I started thinking back about this. So I've had a lot of people mention my voice and I had totally forgotten about this, but early in my career I worked for a wireless company. And so it was when I was about 22, 23 years old. And I was asked to be the voiceover person for the company. So when you called into the company, it was my voice that you heard that welcomed you to the company and press 0 for the operator. And so I was that voice for a long time. And it was just the funny, I remember the recording of it, and it was just such a funny thing because I really then, of course, that made me want to enunciate my voice even words even more and, but so I was that voice for several months. They didn't keep me forever. They ended up merging with another company and used a bigger company, but for the longest time, if you called to the Greenville, South Carolina office, you heard me.
I love that. That's so fun to learn that about you. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing it. Okay, here's a question because you and I have really, it's been my honor to work with you now for the last few years. What's something that we have worked on in the last maybe few months together that you have implemented and really seen a result? I'd be super interested for you to share this with the audience. You're a great
Yes.
implementer.
I was gonna say, so I think about how far I've come and from the time that you and I worked together, and the number one, and I know you always say this, is implementing ideas, period, has made a huge difference of the things that you tell me that I should be doing. I believe you. I don't need to be, convinced. So so if you're telling me that's the direction I need to go for sales, then that's the direction I take. And so I would definitely say the way I communicate on doing those calls and asking those right questions, I've seen a big turnaround in because I am trying to up level who I'm talking to now. So
Mhm.
that means how I present myself makes a difference. So there's so many questions I've asked you just even in the group calls, in the one-on-one calls, our offers as I've dialed in my offers so much, like and really narrowed down like the things that really matter. So I think my offers are resonating more with the people that I'm connecting with. So I know I'm being a little abstract, but it's really just these different things. It's all of these different elements that that I implement anytime you and I talk about things, I implement these ideas to where I've seen traction in my business and people look at how I handle sales very differently than what I used to do. So even just how I communicate with people through email and being putting that person first, like making a point to put that. And I know these are all things that we talk about often, but I think it's just the idea of it all coming together and implementing all of the little pieces. And then, like I said, the 46 touches. I have been a big evangelist for that after you and I talked, and it has made a big difference because I think it helps people to relax a little bit to say, okay, I'm doing the things. It's just, it takes time.
Yeah.
It's patience.
Yeah. Well, I know I said this. You are a phenomenal implementer. I am always delighted, and you're really great at giving feedback to me as well. Like, I just implemented this. This is what happened, Nikki. Like, I love that so much. But mostly, I'm so excited for you and where your business is going. And again, the impact that you're making. You make your clients money. It's an easy yes as long as they understand what the offer is. It's a much easier yes for people now than, when we first started working together. Like,
Yes.
you've gotten so clear on your offers. You have switched gears, you have up leveled the type of client that you're serving. All of these things, they've just been so exciting. It's a real pleasure to watch you. I know you're one of my favorites. I adore you so much. I'm so so thrilled for you. Here's my last question and we'll wrap it up is
Yeah.
how can somebody listening get in touch with you? What is the best way for somebody to get in touch with you who probably needs some support on their nurture and email sequence and really maximizing their list to bring revenue in the door?
So I know I should give one, but could I give two,
Yeah,
depending
absolutely.
on where somebody is right now? So I've just recently revamped my re-engagement guide, and I think it's, something that, so the reconnection email toolkit. So if somebody's wanting to hang around and needs a few 40 touches before they get in touch with me, then at kathyfarah.com/reengage, you can pick up my re-engagement and join my email community. I send out great emails. I hear this from my clients and people that are on my email list that helps you to really implement strategy. If you are ready to roll, then I'm on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So you can always connect with me on LinkedIn at Kathy Farah and you will see regular posts there as well. So those are
Yeah.
the two ways that if you need a little more time or you want to get started, connect with me there.
Yeah. Please reach out and connect with Kathy. She's a favorite in the Sales Maven Society. You're so
I
supportive.
love the Sales Maven Society.
You're loved there.
I've
You are
enjoyed
absolutely
working
loved
with you
there.
as well, Nikki.
Oh, thank you so much. All right. Thank you to you, the listener, for being here. I hope that hearing kind of what we walked through today, as far as the discovery, the questions, the proposal piece, is something that you can go and implement into your business and see results. And please connect with Kathy if for no other reason, just to know a really amazing woman in business who is just crushing what she's doing and continues to level up. Like, those are the people I think we want to surround ourselves with. So I encourage you to connect with her. Thank you for listening. Kathy, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Nikki. I
You're welcome.
appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Have a great rest of the day. Take care.